Robots have always been a curiosity among humans. They're often portrayed in science fiction as superior adversaries or sophisticated assistants attending to our every need. In truth, today's robot technology is not yet at science fiction levels, but we do have robotic vacuum cleaners and assembly line machines, and we're developing self-driving cars. Soon, we may also have autonomous weed mowers. They're being developed by University of Minnesota researchers who are testing the mower in cow pastures. The West Central Research and Outreach Center's Morris office, the Toro Company, and University of Minnesota's computer programmers are collaborating on the mower's design.
So it really started with a problem here on the farm. So as the cows are grazing in their pastures, they will eat the grass, but they'll leave thistles and burdock and other weeds. And so those don't get controlled, they go to seed, they spread, and eventually they can kind of take over a pasture. So every now and then, a person would actually have to get on a tractor and pull a mower out into a pasture and mow it to control the weeds. And it's a job that nobody wants to do because the pastures are really rough, there's a lot of gopher mounds, etc.
The face of the project is a modified Toro Groundmaster mower.
So the current vehicle we're calling, Toro nicknamed it the cowbot, and that just has kind of stuck. It's a mower that would have been used on a golf course. Toro converted it from a diesel mower to electricity. We've also changed the mowing apparatus itself from a normal deck mower to a flail mower.
So we have lithium batteries on here, and we've converted the mower to do an efficiency study. There's a couple ways to make an electric vehicle. One is to start from scratch and make it, drives all the power systems electric powered. What we did on this mower was simply remove the diesel engine and replace it with an electric motor. So the rest of the tractor is essentially staying the same. The other thing we did was we added on the drive-by-wire items so that it could become a robot. We aren't doing the navigation. We are making a machine that will listen to navigation commands and execute them. So the traction control and the steering control are electronically controlled devices.
I mainly work on the navigation of the robot. Like we take sensor information and decide which direction you move for the robot, and some controlling commands you send. Previously, I work on flat ground, but in this pasture, the ground is much more rough. So not all my previous codes can work. So I have to specifically deal with those, the robot, jockey, rotate a lot.
There's a lot of integration. You got to have a lot of handshakes between the navigation and the machine to say, I'm ready to be a robot. Are you ready to navigate? Yes, I am. Okay, go ahead. And some safety protocols for that transition. And the navigation has to understand capabilities of the robot. It can ask for 60 miles an hour, but it can't get it. And the robot has to understand what it's, if the navigation tells it to do something, to say, here's the method I'm going to do it. I'm going to proceed smoothly, I'm going to turn at this rate, things like that.
We have quite an array of sensors. We use very precise GPS location. We have IMUs, putting LiDAR and camera. So there are a bunch of sensors that work together. All of these interact with our system. We interact then with the robots system, the cowbot's internal systems.
The cowbot has been tested on the university's research pastures in Morris.
So the cowbot is using GPS for navigation. And so it's connecting to satellites just like you would in your car. But it's a differential GPS. So there's also a unit mounted in the pasture which vastly increases the accuracy. So it gets it down to centimeter type accuracy. Originally, a driver drove a perimeter to establish the area that we wanted to mow. The cowbot then calculated the programming on the cowbot calculated a path to fill that area, and now it's following the path and it's using the GPS signal to make sure it stays online. Ideally, it's trying to manage the amount of overlap so that we get all the weeds, but we don't overlap too much. And so you'll see it go, and if it hits a gopher mound and gets sort of diverted from the path, it will correct and come back.
The cowbot's battery life is 2 to 3 hours. Eventually, it'll be able to return itself to the custom-fitted solar charger trailer.
We have 10 solar panels on the roof of this cargo trailer, which is about 3.3 kilowatts of energy. And the first piece of equipment is a charge controller. And any solar PV array that's hooked up to batteries needs a charge controller. And that is controlling the charging of the battery bank. So we're taking the energy from the solar panels. This is making sure that the voltage and current are correct for the and depending on how charged the batteries are, it varies the voltage to charge the batteries. This is a power inverter. So far everything from the solar panels and stored in the batteries is DC electricity. But normally if you want to use that electricity, you need it to be inverted into AC electricity, the same kind you have in your house. And that comes into a circuit panel just like you'd have in your basement. And then the last thing we have on here is a level 2 electric vehicle charger. So this is the same kind of thing that you would have in your garage if you had an electric vehicle and you were charging it at home.
There's more in store for the cowbot than just mowing pasture weeds.
We're also looking at using the same vehicle for autonomously weeding early row crops. So something like soybeans or corn. When that plant is still very small, and then a phase 2 of this project is to actually weed late term row crops. So going in a cornfield perhaps after the corn is tall enough that you couldn't go through with a tractor and a cultivator anymore, we're developing a different vehicle. This would be a different vehicle, not the cowbot, but a new robot that would actually go down a single row in that cornfield and hunt and kill weeds. So it will determine what is a weed relative to a corn plant, find it and kill it.
There's always a thrill when you build something and it works the first time. It's like a birth of a child almost. So those are fun. Seeing it make progress. On a scale of comparing to an adult, the cowbot's probably a 7-year-old, but last year it was a toddler. So it's growing in its capabilities. It's got a long ways to go to be a full functioning adult though.
It's been a really fun project to work on. It's an interesting application. I think that we're at the very cusp of robotics in agriculture. You've already seen tractors that are steering themselves in the fields and things, so I think farmers are becoming more accustomed to this type of technology. And I really don't think it'll be that long, 5 to 10 years, before you'll be seeing commercial products, where you're going to see a lot more robotic activity on farms.